Hi, everyone. I'm Steven Sigman,
Mike Messinio.
and this is the weekly movie Throwdown, where each week we look at two films that have some similarity between them, and we talk through which one is better. This week, it's a throwdown between two female-led action films, where 2017's Atomic Blonde is going to go up against Gunpowder Milkshake from 2021. Before we get into that conversation, though, Mike, do you have any wins of the week to share with us?
One win of the week. I went to go see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band this week. I've seen
That's a big
Springsteen
win.
many. Yeah, I've seen Springsteen many times. Some people think an uncomfortable amount of times, and I keep thinking that I'm kind of done with it. That I've seen enough Springsteen shows and I'm okay, and then I always get sucked back in and I go to another one. But it's still impressive as hell, obviously, to watch like a bunch of 70-year-olds play for 3 straight hours, and really just bring it. It's really impressive to watch. But also, I mean, look, he's very good at crafting a show, emotionally, and it kind of brings you up and down. It's just it still impresses me. I still walk out of there feeling kind of revived and kind of hopeful, I guess. That's I guess why I keep going back. But yeah, it's another great show. I will say though, this time at the very end of the show, I think like the 76 years finally caught up to him. Like towards the end, he was a little gassed. He even kind of sat down on the stage and was just like took like a deep breath, took about 20 seconds to pull himself together. I think it's a lot. It's a lot of a show for 70-year-old.
And he still had to clean up after the show. Wasn't that the thing on the Ben Stiller show where they went and saw him and he was like cleaning up after the performance, like mopping the floor or something? Is he the artist you've seen the most times?
Yeah, it's not even close.
It's cool that he's still doing it. I mean, it's still relevant, right? I mean, he's always making news.
It's not. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's cool that he's still doing it, but it's cool that it still matters. It's not like a nostalgia show. That's what mattered to me too. Like he's not the kind of artist that does nostalgia shows. He's usually promoting an album. He plays new songs whether you like it or not. And this particular tour was, full of protest songs and some obscure music. He still gives you the songs you want to hear, I guess, but he takes some detours, and I appreciate that too.
Must be harder and harder the farther along he gets to mix new stuff in, because he's always having more and more like hits, like that set list of hits is growing and growing. So every time he puts out a new album, it's like, how do you get all of that in as well? And does anybody even care about that?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think he forces you to care about it, which is, the last tour. I mean, he very much did like a full production, like a show centered around the new album. And so, 8 of the 11 songs on the new album were in the show, and they were weaved into like the story of the show. So he makes it matter. I mean, and he forces you to deal with it. That's just the way that it is. And that's I think matters. I think that's how an artist keeps things relevant for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's really impressive. Some artists just create an alias like the Fireman, Paul McCartney's alias, and just put out new music under that. I have no wins of the week. I didn't really watch anything this week. I did see that movie Hokum from the director of Oddity, which came out a few years ago and I really liked, but it's not worth really digging into because it was okay. But that's really the only thing I watched this week. So we might as well just jump right into our throwdown. Atomic Blonde versus Gunpowder Milkshake. This is one that you brought to us. But what was your thinking behind these two films?
Yeah, so this is a literal throwdown. There's lots of throwdowns in both of these movies. But so I saw Pretty Lethal like a month ago. Came out on Amazon Prime, which is an action movie involving like ballerinas, and Uma Thurman's in it. And boy, was that movie terrible. It was not good at all. But I sat there thinking as I was watching it, the fact that it was terrible actually made me happy, because I always felt like we always talk about like the idea of equality or leveling playing fields and all of this. But to me, it's like, well, leveling a playing field means women should also be allowed to make stupid ass action movies just as much as anybody else, right? Like, why do their
Sure.
movies have to be perfect or better? Like, why can't we don't need, why can't we have a female Chuck Norris? Like, we can just have decent action movies. So I actually thought that Pretty Lethal being terrible was a win. They're like, well, that's where it should be. Why not? So it just got me thinking though about other movies with female led action stars that I've watched, and these two jumped out at me. Gunpowder Milkshake was a movie that kind of flew under the radar that I don't think many people even saw, and I thought it would be fun to watch again. And Atomic Blonde is obviously big director, big movie star, and I thought it would be cool to compare them.
Yeah, it was a fun ride. More uh, exciting than I thought it would be because I remembered both of these films not so fondly. And going back and looking at both of them again, actually, uh, they do have a lot in common in that they're both stylistic, like visually very stylized. And it turns out they have the same production designer. So everything that you see is kind of done by one guy, or at least comes from the head of one guy in both films. So that really tied them together for me. Um, they're also very similar in that they have two of the stupidest titles for movies that I've ever heard, especially Gunpowder Milkshake, like which I will not say again for the duration of this show because I think it's like the dumbest thing ever. So I'm just gonna refer to it as like
So the
Gunpowder
original
because
title was actually Bloody Milkshake, which is worse. Bloody Milkshake is worse. So Gunpowder
oh,
Milkshake actually works better for me. I'm okay
makes
with it.
more sense though. Like I think it's milkshake that bothers me. Why is that in a title of an action movie? I just
I
don't.
mean, but
I
whenever
don't
I think
like
of
it.
milkshakes, it makes me think of Daniel Day Lewis. So it
Of
doesn't bother me that
course.
much either.
Yeah. Why couldn't this be called "I punch your milkshake" or "I shoot your milkshake" or something? That would have been better. But yeah, I think that word is really what throws me off. Um, but there is a lot of stuff in common with these. I mean, they're both very, as I said, very stylized. They're both incredibly heavy on action. I do think that the way they both tell stories is very different, and I don't know if either of them fully nails that, but we'll get into that in the comparison. Uh, let's just focus on Atomic Blonde for now and talk about that because this is the first film from David Leitch as a solo director, coming off of John Wick, which he did with Chad Stahelski. It was written by Kurt Johnstad for the screen, who writes a lot of stuff for Zack Snyder. He wrote 300, Rebel Moon, and it's adapted from a graphic novel called The Coldest City, written by Anthony Johnson and illustrated by Sam Hart, who also gets a writing credit on this. Which I think is interesting because as we talk about Gunpowder Milkshake, that feels so much more like a comic book to me than Atomic Blonde does. But yeah, this is an adaptation, and you kind of feel that in it. Um, Here's a quick overview of it. Lorraine Broughton is the most elite spy in MI6, an agent who's willing to use all of her lethal skills to stay alive during an impossible mission. With the Berlin Wall about to fall, she travels into the heart of the city to retrieve a priceless dossier and take down a ruthless espionage ring. Once there, she teams up with an embedded station chief to navigate her way through the deadliest game of spies. What are your wider thoughts on Atomic Blonde in rewatching it?
So my thoughts really didn't change that much from when I watched it initially, which is that I think, yeah, I like movies set during the Cold War. Honestly, this period of time is very interesting. But I've kind of realized that you mentioned the screenwriter, Kurt Johnstad, and I guess I feel the same about all the movies that he writes. I, there's not much to them. Like I don't particularly think he's great. He's a great writer necessarily. There's something about it that kind of leaves me cold. And this movie particularly, I just think the way that it's stylized and the way that it's shot kind of puts you at a little bit of a distance. I think it's kind of a monotone movie. I also don't love movies that start at the end and then kind of flashback.
Oh, really?
It depends on the movie, I think. I mean, obviously the usual suspects is one of them, but that's interesting. And this it made me think of that in this regard because you have an interview, but then you end up finding out information at the end that kind of turns it on its head. So that was the thing I was thinking of as I was watching it. But in this kind of instance, because it's an action movie, stakes change because you obviously know that the person is going to survive no matter what. That it always changes a little bit for me. Uh, so
That's
so
true.
so it's just my own particular feelings. But I was thinking about this in overall terms of like David Leitch. Um, I think that I felt this way, the kind of way I felt about all of his movies up to The Fall Guy, where The Fall Guy is the first time I felt like he really put together action and story and kind of found that magic balance where to me it worked better than any movie he'd made before that. Whereas uh the Deadpool movies were just a little they were a lot. It was a little too much for me. Um I felt like Bullet Train was about 25 minutes too long. It was just kind of in love with itself and the action actually became exhausting towards the end. It was just a lot. And Atomic Blonde to me is a little bit like that too. I think he's still trying to find his legs where I think that the balance of the storytelling is a little bit off. Is that fair to say? What do you think?
I think I agree with you about the storytelling, but I kind of go in the other direction with it because it feels to me like this is John Wick, but trying to put it inside of like a John le Carre adaptation. I mean, there's so much espionage and so many double agents, and if I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, the writer and David Leitch, that the object here is to disorient the viewer, you know, but perhaps that's giving them too much credit because I found it to be incredibly disorienting in that it's really trying to tell this Cold War story, which you're right. I mean, those can be done so beautifully. I mean, basically anything that's an Le Carre adaptation, like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Most Wanted Man, all of those are so compelling. But I think here it's trying to be more than it is. I mean, it could have just been John Wick, with Charlize in the lead, and it would have been super
I would
interesting to
agree.
me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. Trying to make it the storyline trying to be almost a more of a prestige story wrapped inside an action wrapper ends up kind of making both things less than they should be. I think that's the best way of looking at it. Yeah.
And I think you're right too, because even though nobody really likes the Fall Guy, I think he really gets a balance there of that storytelling and the action. And there's a little less stylization in that. I mean, his thing is fight choreography, and it's always going to be sort of like top of mind when you watch one of his films, I think. And you get that in the Fall Guy too, but there's I mean, it's based on a TV show, and if you ever watch one of those one of those episodes, he kind of gets that investigation aspect of every episode that Lee Majors was in. So, yeah, I mean, this is his first time out as a solo director, and so I don't think you're gonna maybe get it right necessarily if you've been working with somebody else, but
Right.
I
And he
I
leans
still
on
enjoyed it.
yeah, and it's like he's leaning on what he does best. And some of the action sequences in this movie are great. I mean, obviously the 10-minute it's like I think it's like 1 10-minute continuous take. I think that's stairwell shot. I don't even remember if there are any cuts in that
Well,
scene. But
there are digital. It's actually 48 shots, but I mean, to the naked
well,
eye,
now
you're not
now
gonna
I'm just
know.
angry having heard that. But it's an enjoyable watch. I mean, that sequence is really something, and that's a great example of what he's really good at. I mean, the rest of it, I think he's still working out.
I think he's also good at making his characters suffer and show that they're suffering I mean, for as like heightened as the reality is in things like John Wick and this and the Fall Guy. I mean, this opens essentially with Charlize in the aftermath of everything we're going to see beyond it. And she's just beat to hell. And even inside the story, there's a lot of her just kind of feeling everything that's happening to her physically through broken bones and just getting beat up so much. And John Wick does a pretty good job of that too. I mean, it's not perfect, you know. I still don't think anybody could get up and walk away from most of this stuff,
Still trying to figure
but
out how John Wick survived getting shot and falling off a roof. I'm still trying to work that one out.
it's best not to think about those things too much. But you know, I do think there's a little more realism to the things that David Leitch does. And perhaps that's from his stunt background, you know. He's been in fights, he's been in these situations, and he knows what it feels like in the aftermath of that. So I think that's kind of an element that he brings to this that I appreciate a lot. And I think
Yeah,
Charlize does an incredible job too of just like portraying all of those things.
yeah,
What were you going to
I
say?
I
Sorry.
agree. I think you're right. I mean, this isn't an '80s action movie. It's very much a 2000s action movie where they're not superhuman. They're just pushing through pain. So it's a very different feel. You're right about that. Yeah, Charlize Theron. I think this is yeah. I think after Mad Max Fury Road, she had that movie under her belt, and she used the clout from that to get this made. This was her passion project. So she had read this story, I think even before it came out, the graphic novel, and she really wanted to make this movie. And I mean, you can see that she puts everything she's got into this movie. It's really, you know, whatever you feel the movie good or bad. I mean, she is kind of magnetic in this movie. You just can't take your eyes off of her. And I really like the casting of James McAvoy against her. I really like him as an actor, and I like especially when he plays someone who's slightly off kilter or slightly crazy. I think he's really good at that. Um, so the pairing of the two of them was actually a lot of fun.
I love that she just gets to be a movie star. I mean, she's so beautiful and so talented. And, you know, they're not hiding any of that. She's really sort of like front and center for the entire film. And that's a big lift, whether it's like a man or a woman in a film that requires this much. She just really does an incredible job. And for James McAvoy, he feels a little bit like J.K. Simmons to me in that he might just blow up at any moment. Like he plays crazy a little too well. And I was thinking about the last few things he's done. I know he's like Charles Xavier, and so that's a little more measured. But I think about Speak No Evil and Split, and I guess those are the things that stick in my head where he's kind of a maniac. So I think he's perfect for sort of the heightened reality and tone of this film. It's actually pretty great. He also dresses. I don't know if this was intentional by the costume designer or not, but he dresses uh, shockingly like Tyler Durden, which I found very interesting. In like the sweater vest with no shirt underneath, the furry coat. I mean, there's so many moments where I thought, did he raid Tyler Durden's wardrobe? And
It's a
that's fine by me.
great it's a great pickup. Probably why I liked it as well. I mean, don't we all wish we could just wear sweater vests with no shirt and furry coats all the time? At least I do. I mean, I think about that all the time. If I had any muscle at all, I would be wearing shirtless sweater vests constantly.
Well, I mean, the physique aside, you know, you could have all of those things because I remember Tyler Durden in the Fight Club book. I don't know if they touch on it in the movie, but he got all of his stuff from Lost and Founds. So that's why his wardrobe was so eclectic and just all over the place, which is such a little great tidbit. Um, yeah, I think this film is very strong. And I think despite having said that it might try a little too hard with the writing, I love the the sort of like leveled out tone of it because it's very you're very immersed in it. It builds a world that you live in from the color, like the gray color of Berlin in that time to like an incredible soundtrack that I was just loving all the way through. That's very much of that time, very much of that place for the most part. And I really found myself sort of like transported into it, which I don't often do.
I'm glad. I had a little bit of a different feeling about it in terms of the soundtrack. It was 50-50 for me. There were some surprising song choices that I appreciated. But when you do a movie in a certain period of the '80s, you kind of know that you're going to hear like a few songs.
Yeah, it's on the
Like when I
nose
heard
for sure.
99 Luftballoons, I was like, yeah, I knew 1,000% I was going to hear that
Yeah,
song. There's no doubt about it.
twice. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a given. And you're probably going to hear Under Pressure by David Bowie and Queen. Like that's also kind of a given. But beside that, there were a few other interesting little songs that I wasn't expecting. So
Yeah, I mean, it opens with Joy Division and it has Till Tuesday in there. Father Figure, which is used pretty well. I found it to be, even though, yes, you're right, it was very on the nose. It's just like stuff I listened to when I was a kid, so I really, really enjoy going back to
yeah,
it.
I mean, look, it's not Forrest Gump level obvious. I mean, so that's fine. That
Yeah,
movie is kind of like a template for this is exactly the song you would hear from this era in a movie. Like, let's play that. Let's play Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, that kind of thing.
yeah. I like because you mentioned the Bowie thing. I think that for as serious as this is, there's a sort of undertone of comedy to it. And I bring up that moment because you have Kurt Loder talking about the birth of sampling in that moment, and that Under Pressure song being one of the more well-known samples of that time through Vanilla Ice. So I think that for as dead serious as a lot of this is, there's sort of comedy moments in it that David Leitch can go either heavy-handed with like he does in The Fall Guy, or he can kind of pull back on a little bit like he does here and in John Wick, because John Wick has a lot of it too, and I love
Yeah,
that.
I think you're right. Although I do think that joke you have to kind of be our age because if anyone hasn't seen it, like you should go look up the video of Vanilla Ice trying to explain why it's not copyright infringement, having used that music. It's one of my favorite explanations of all time. So good that he probably should be doing press for the Iran war. Like it's that level of like just trying to talk your way out of the obvious. It's great.
Was Suge Knight hanging him off of a balcony while he was explaining it?
No, not in this one.
John Goodman's in this. We just saw him in Matinee a few weeks ago, and he and Toby Jones here almost feel interchangeable to me as like the embodiment of mistrust in a system. They're these bureaucrats who you never know whether they're like on the level or not, and they probably aren't until the very end. You end up finding out who John Goodman is, but just doing their thing. This is the kind of thing that Toby Jones in particular always does when he shows up. He's just so solid as this guy. Goodman solid in everything he does, but I really loved seeing him in this, especially in contrast to just seeing him in Matinee a few weeks ago. Um,
Yeah, John Goodman's great. So, and that's the thing too. I think that's what I was thinking about as I was watching this movie. When you get the reveal at the end, how much do you care about? Like, how much did you care about the actual ending of the movie? I feel like by that point, I feel like I was a little punch drunk, and I wasn't sure that I cared that much, which to me was kind of the sign of my overall feeling about the movie. Where like I enjoyed it, but I didn't necessarily love it, and I think that's part of the reason where like I wasn't shocked, and I wasn't it wasn't like a Usual Suspects ending where I was just wanted to go back and rewatch it immediately, that kind of thing. I was just
yeah,
like, oh, okay, another twist. This is a little exhausting. Okay, got it. Because then you just start
yeah,
thinking to
and
yourself, okay, so how long was she embedded in MI6 to become the best agent they have? Like the whole, I don't know.
it's like late stage Shyamalan, twist on
Yeah,
twist on
that's
twist.
yeah, that's great. Right.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I didn't care by the time she got to the Russian room in France with the Russians. Even that felt like just a reason to bring back the guy who was beat up when he picked her up from the airport at the beginning. and he had kind of been in and out throughout in the third act, but it really had no payoff. And so it just felt like that was built for him to come back, and of course to like close the door on the KGB piece of it. But it, who cares? I mean, between that and the CIA thing, it's like it could have
Yeah, and it
ended in the
even
interrogation room.
and my problem too is that you're right. It brings back the people from the car at the beginning, but it's like, okay, but if they thought that she was helping them, why were those guys trying? Like, what was that even about then?
Yeah,
Like did they
yeah.
not know? Did they already know? It actually opens up more questions than answers, or maybe I'm just dense. I don't know, but I found myself thinking I'm not even sure that makes sense now. But anyway,
That's what a lot of the film was for me, is overthinking it. And I think the screenwriter overthought a lot of it too, because it didn't need all of this. The Sophia Boutella's character Delphine, who is a French agent, completely unnecessary. I don't understand why she's in this film other than to maybe make some attempt at an emotional stake for Lorraine, but that's already established with her being connected to the Gascoigne guy who gets killed at the beginning. I mean, that's kind of like her secondary reason for going on this mission, is to sort of like avenge him in a way. So there are already stakes there. I don't know why this other character even needed to be in there, because that just adds to more confusion. I mean, I guess it gets an opportunity to show that the Percival character, James McAvoy's character, is like more of a bad guy than a good guy, because he ends up killing her. But beyond that, that feels so unnecessary to me and just adds to confusion I'm already feeling from this double agent backstabbing that double agent.
I can't disagree with you. Again, I feel like if this movie was like an hour and 40 minutes, it would have been much more enjoyable than like the 155 that it clocked in at. Actually, it was longer than that. It was like
Yeah,
over 2 hours long.
it was. Yeah,
It
it
was
was
2 hours and 5
2 hours.
minutes. This was like an hour and 45 minutes. I think it would have been a much tighter, more enjoyable movie.
One scene they could have cut is John Goodman going to Berlin. Like, why was he there? If he's working for her or with her, like, why fly all the way to Berlin just for that?
Right. Again, there are certain
Uh,
sequences that in retrospect you're like, wait, those were literally just filmed to throw us off. Right? It's like the, I, knowing the ending, those scenes don't actually make any sense.
that's what I'm saying. Is this spycraft on the part of the screenwriter and David Leitch to throw us off, or is it just bad writing? I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
that's what keeps me talking about it. I'm trying to figure that out, and I lean on the side of it. It's just being more than it needs to be, um, but still a fun
Yeah,
time. I
right, and that's
think
what's weird. As
you
we're
know.
saying this, we're picking this movie apart, and I get it, and I didn't 100% love it, but I certainly didn't hate it, and I enjoyed most of the time that I spent watching it. So it's not even like I'm really mad at it. It was fun in certain parts, and again, you get two actors that you enjoy. I mean, multiple actors. I mean, the cast is strong. Um, you know, James McAvoy chewing up some scenery, and Charlize Theron kicking ass, and it's like that's a pretty good time. I can't complain.
Yeah, I definitely had fun with it. I Just to speak to our theme between these two, this is a time when a lot more like female action films are coming out, and I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know what it was about the 2010s where you see like Wanted with Angelina Jolie, Salt with Angelina Jolie, Lucy, a lot of like just these female stars getting into this action game, and it's really fun that this is happening, and I love just seeing more and more of these. So I'm very happy about it. Uh
Yeah, didn't
is
Wanted also start had James McAvoy in that one
James
too? Wasn't he in
McAvoy,
that
that's
one
right.
too? Yeah, so he's
And Chris Pratt. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
It
I
was,
actually like that movie. We could have done that one instead. There were some good ones that came out of this period. But like I said to you, I think that's why things turn kind of slowly, but I do think that how do you reinvent well-worn genres? And we talked about this before. I think when we talked about bottoms at one point. Well, it's like, well, how do you reinvent the sex comedy, right? You have to change the people that are in it. That's the only way to really change it. And the
Yeah.
same thing here. I mean, the 80s action movie kind of was petering out. It was on fumes. Well, so how do you revive a genre? You populate it with women. You just make it something different, and you can you can even retell a bunch of stories, but tell it from a different perspective, and now you've got something interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder though if I mean, this is just off the top of my head. I probably sound like an idiot, but I wonder if the female-led action films have a little more story in them and less action. I think Atomic Blonde is kind of like both, but I'm thinking about Ballerina in particular, which is, kind of in this world that David Leitch created. And that is so bogged down with all of this story. Whereas the John Wick films, they do tell that story over 4 episodes, but, the first one is like a pure revenge film, and you're sort of seeing a little bit of that world as it goes on, but some of these like this that have such a complex story in them, it almost feels like, I don't know, like a mistrust in the woman being capable of the action, which is dumb.
Not disagreeing with you, and again, that's why I thought that Pretty Lethal was so important. That story was stupid. That movie was dumb as hell. Like, and that's what you got. You got a bunch of ballerinas in a friggin' fight with the Russian mob or whatever. Like, that's dumbass movie. So
I mean, there's a
to me,
reason
that is
Kill Bill is what it
right.
is. I mean, that is 4 hours of a revenge. That's exactly that's John Wick in a way, with story being unfolded as you go. But this is like, I but this does have a fair amount of action in it. I'm not taking that away from it because I think Charlize is so good at it. She actually trained with Keanu to work on this, which I love knowing. And she also had 8 other physical trainers teaching her how to fight. So she's someone who can do the work. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it depends on who's in the film, but she's capable of it, and she's also capable of handling a story, as we know. So perhaps it's just something that is designed the way it is to fit her skill set, which is very vast. I don't know.
But getting back to the to answer your other question though, as we learned from Nick Cage, it's like, why wouldn't an actor want to parlay their popularity into making action movies? I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Like, who doesn't at one point just want to do a balls out action movie? That's a lot of fun, as we've seen.
Yeah,
So it makes sense that you see these female actresses now, if you're getting the opportunity, would want to do it. Of course, why wouldn't you?
yeah, and I'm glad those opportunities are there because I think it, like you said, I mean that makes the genre more interesting. And
And I
I
think,
think
on a total side note too. I mean, yes, not really a side note, but I think that part of this is, I think gymnasts have had a lot to do with the rise of female action movies as well. And I learned this from watching some stuff on the Marvel movies. That a lot of the people that do action stunts for female actors are actually ex gymnasts. Not just ex gymnasts, but ex cheerleaders, like that genre, like that group of highly trained female athletes who do a lot of acrobatic work. I don't know why this wasn't, maybe because of the rise of the popularity of those two sports. Maybe it just wasn't around as much in the 70s and 80s, but the rise of all of that has brought in a lot of females in those sports that after they age out of it or after they leave it have nowhere to go. And I don't know who figured out that those are the perfect people to come in and do stunt work in action movies. But once you connected those two things, I think that has a lot to do now with why there are female driven action movies, because now you have just a wealth of people who are great at doing acrobatic work that you can now put into these movies and make it work.
yeah, I mean, just this genre embracing female leads like this is creating work for so many more of these female stunt women, and that's really cool. I mean, I think about Zoe Bell, who was Uma Thurman's stunt double on the Tarantino films, and she's really become kind of the face of like female stunt actors, and is really like leading the charge with like shining that light on this industry, and it's really really cool. Yeah, I love seeing it. I just think it's there's always room for it, and it's
Yes, there's
something we should
always room
embrace.
for more action movies.
Yeah,
Uh, I
regardless
ar-
of who's in them.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have this argument with my son all the time. It's like, well, you can't just watch nothing but prestige movies. Where's the fun in that? You can't appreciate prestige movies unless you watch non-prestige movies.
I mean, even the Criterion channel shows things like The Devil's Advocate. But, that tells you there's
Hell
value
yeah.
in all kinds of stuff. Do you have anything else you want to mention about Atomic Blonde before we move on to the other movie that I won't name?
Yeah, real quick. I mean, we didn't really get into the weeds in this, but Bill Skarsgård. I didn't even realize Bill
Oh, yeah.
Skarsgård was in this, and I don't even think I knew who he was at the time. So a really early role for him. So, yeah, that was kind of cool to see. It's always fun to go back and see people you didn't remember or recognize at the time.
Yeah, and you can see, he's going to be something. I mean, he has a lot of just presence on screen, even as a young guy, and it's very cool.
Yeah. The other thing too is because he's Bill Skarsgård. I don't know if it's because it was a spy movie or because he's Bill Skarsgård, but I thought the entire time he was inevitably going to turn on her, on Lorraine.
Yeah,
Like I just thought that was inevitable that he'd be the bad
yeah,
guy, but he wasn't. So that was nice.
yeah. He's just a good guy trying to help out. I love it. All right, well, let's move on to Gunpowder Milkshake. Ugh, that name. This is directed by Navat Papuchado, and it's written by him and Ehud Lavsky. And yeah, came out in 2021. Here is a quick overview of it from Rotten Tomatoes. It's a very lengthy one. Sam was only 12 when her mother, Scarlett, an elite assassin, was forced to abandon her. Sam was raised by the Firm, a ruthless crime syndicate her mother worked for. Now, 15 years later, Sam has followed in her mother's footsteps and grown into a fierce hitwoman. She uses her talents to clean up the Firm's most dangerous messes. She's as efficient as she is loyal, but when a high-risk job goes wrong, Sam must choose between serving the Firm and protecting the life of an innocent 8-year-old girl, Emily. With a target on her back, Sam has only one chance to survive, reunite with her mother and her lethal associates, the librarians. These 3 generations of women must now learn to trust each other, stand up to the Firm and their army henchmen, and raise hell against those who could take everything from them. I mean, there's way more in that than there is in the actual film.
Yeah, I
you
hate
know,
that synopsis. That's and
it,
actually and I didn't realize this when I put these two together, but besides the fact they share a production designer, which I didn't know. The reason I like these two together is that yes, you have one movie that is kind of too much story, and then you have another movie that they're not worried about that.
yeah,
Not worried about it. This and that that's what we're here for. Not getting bogged down in details.
I think that the you picking these 2 films is very interesting because I think John Wick is like right in the middle of them, because that is the straightforward revenge plot with the David Leitch choreography and fighting in it, which you get in Atomic Blonde. But it also has this really interesting world building that's kind of like, uh, it shows this world inside of our world where people act according to their own set of rules, like with the Continental Hotel and the coins that they share as money. And you get a lot of that in this too, with the librarians, and there's almost like a retro futuristic kind of feel to it that you get in John Wick with the phone operators and like, so I think that's the bridge between these 2 films, which I
Yeah,
find very
yeah.
interesting.
That's totally right. But Gunpowder Milkshake is also kind of a spot the influence kind of movie. Um,
Right.
Almost any scene you could point to another movie. And obviously John Wick is the example people keep going to, but the ending sequence, that slow motion mayhem scene in the diner almost feels more like a different one of their movies. It's like feels like 300 in a way, where you just gotta. It's this
Mm,
very slow motion uh, massacre happening in front of you. So
yeah. That actually feels a little bit like something you would have seen in The Fall Guy too, in like done better. But yeah, that's really interesting. I think that scene is shot very well because it's smart to use that tracking shot in like the dimensions of a long diner. I think that's really cool. The CGI in that scene is incredibly off-putting and not very well executed and drives me crazy.
you know how I feel
Uh
about that. You know how I feel about
oh,
bad CGI.
it's really bad. And part of that is this is 2021 and I'm trying to put my finger on why this feels like the Netflix film that it is. And I can't quite narrow it down. So maybe you can help me. I don't know if it's like there's always some sort of lightness to anything they do that it doesn't necessarily fit with the material. And of course, like, we're all about Netflix lighting now as 2026 is here and we're looking at things like The Devil Wears Prada too, where Netflix has created this sort of run and gun sitcom sort of lighting. And I just don't know what it is, but Netflix movies feel like Netflix movies. Maybe they're sort of subtly four quadrant films in a way that something like Atomic Blonde isn't. I don't know. I
Yeah,
can't get to the bottom of it.
that's an interesting point because I mean this wasn't really a Netflix movie necessarily. I mean, this is actually more of a bit of an international production. Quite a few studios were involved. I mean, they end up buying it. So I don't know how far along the movie was when they acquire it.
Hmm.
So I mean, because they acquired, I mean, they just acquired the distribution rights. They bought the U.S. distribution rights. So I
Okay.
don't know how involved they were in making the film. So maybe they just realized that it fit their aesthetic, independent of their own input. I don't know. So that's
Yeah.
even more interesting.
I didn't. I mean, I know that it only made $1 million in theaters, so I
But
didn't
they didn't
think
really
it
release it in the
it
theaters
had.
because
It
Netflix,
was
it
COVID.
came out exclusive. Netflix had just a handful of theaters. It was a limited theatrical release. And I'm trying to
Yeah.
think. I mean, it's hard to remember anymore how long that pandemic hangover lasted. Um, but also because so many things were being released on streaming, I don't remember if what the reason may be that didn't get a theatrical release. It was just kind of a Netflix thing where they were leaving it on the streaming service. Um, but yeah,
Well, that's interesting if it wasn't a Netflix production because it feels like they took this as sort of a template for the things that they do. I mean, it has
right.
that that like neon lighting to it that you see in things like The Gray Man and a lot of stuff that they would do in subsequent years, and it has just the style. Like, I think about as I was watching this, I was thinking a lot about that Army of the Dead film that I think Zack Snyder did with Dave Bautista, where they fight zombies, and it just had a similar feeling to this from what I remember of like just sort of like a cotton candy overlay on top of it somehow. I mean, this obviously is very pink and like literally probably in a way cotton candy, but it just feels Netflix. That's the Netflix thing. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's I'm having a hard time pinpointing it too, but I will say that of all of these movies that you've mentioned that were Netflix, that you said Netflix movies, that movie Havoc that came out with
Yeah,
Tom Hardy,
Marty. Yep.
and a few other action movies I've seen, especially The Gray Man. I enjoyed Gunpowder Milkshake infinitely more than those movies.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because of the neon, maybe because of the brightness. I have no idea. I just think it is a way more entertaining movie than almost any other action movie that I've seen on Netflix. And I think that part of that may be
Yeah.
just because it's not trying that hard to be anything other than what it is.
Yeah, I guess they somehow fell into the aesthetic, but didn't have the limitations that Netflix might put on those films. I don't know. I mean, they're kind of well known for not giving notes and letting the filmmakers sort of cook with that their vision is, but somehow they always just feel like a Netflix film. I don't even the Rip, like that Ben Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movie had a little bit of that to it.
Yeah, I enjoyed
I
this
don't
more than that movie too.
really. Ooh, that's
Did I
interesting.
know
I love that movie.
maybe that's crazy, but yeah, I don't know. I just find all these Netflix movies to be too long and too dour and I don't know, too I don't even know what the word is. Too macho? I have no idea. I don't know what it is about them. But this
Yeah,
one, and let me just state again, we talked about the writing in Atomic Blonde. The dialogue in Gunpowder Milkshake is pretty terrible. It's kind of like Tarantino for grade schoolers. It's just not. It's not great at
yeah.
all. It has poor dialogue, but
I think
the cast
yeah,
is so strong that I'm not sure it matters all that much. You may disagree.
I think, the script was like the last thing on anybody's mind when they were conceptualizing this film. I mean, it's very much like you could turn the sound off and have just as
Yes.
good of a time as you do listening to the dialogue. Because yeah, it's just not strong. I mean, this is a great example of style over substance. And I think that, I love some of the world building stuff, like the librarians. I mean, that's a movie I'd like to see. These librarians, I would love to see that film, but you don't really get any depth to anything in this film. And I wonder if do you think Karen Gillan is the right person for this role? Because I'm sort of on the fence about that.
So first, let me just say you may be in luck. I heard that there's discussions about a sequel to this movie. So maybe you'll get your wish. Maybe it'll be a
I
prequel about the
heard that.
librarians.
Yeah, but I can't find anything beyond 2021 talking about it. They announced it before this was released, and then I can't find anything beyond. It's not on the director's filmography on IMDb. It's not on Karen Gillan's. So I don't know. I hope so though. I think it would be
Yeah.
fun.
So I mean, back to Karen Gillan. I maybe I'm in the minority here too. I really like her. I really liked
I
her
like
in
her too.
Jumanji. I really like her in this. I find her to be a really engaging screen presence. So I'm not sure if she's miscast. It's hard to say. Um, she's not necessarily good I mean, the reason she's good in Jumanji and the reason she was good in the Marvel movie is because it doesn't require any emoting at all. I mean, she's kind
Yeah.
of uh, a bit of a machine in those instances. So she's not exactly great at getting to any emotional depths. But putting that aside, I think she's really fun to watch, and I enjoyed her in this movie. I enjoyed actually most things that she's done.
I wonder if that's kind of like how I felt about her is that the delivery is sort of flat. And I wonder if that's not like a character trait because this is someone who's been abandoned by their mom and they're just
Yeah,
like going through the motions.
I very much felt like that's what it was. I do 100%, especially because when you see her in interviews and stuff, she's actually quite silly and very very fun. Her and Lena Headey are kind of both a little off kilter. So I saw some interviews with the two of them together. So yeah, I think that had to be a choice that she made for the movie.
Yeah, I hope so because that was sort of the main thing that took me out of it a little bit. Well, I mean, there are like many things that took me out of it a little bit in the writing, but that was just that like the constant throughout that I felt like she's a little numb and but again, that could be the character. I don't know. And that speaking of Lena Headey, that there's such a contrast there because she is very like alive and I think that it's great when they're on screen together because she not only is as an actor is she bringing a different energy, but she's also as a character sort of like the emotional weight of the film and that relationship. So it's great when they're on screen together.
Yeah, I have to say too, I think the reason that I think that's in the character too is because if you look at the other characters in the film, I mean, you look at the librarians. I mean, you have three, I mean, really wonderful actresses. I mean, Carla
Yeah,
Gugino, we discussed before how much I like her. We got
yeah,
friggin' Angela Bassett for God's sakes, and Michelle Yeoh. It's like that's as good as it gets there, and the dialogue that they have to deliver is so wooden, and they are struggling really hard to sell it. I mean, you can
yeah.
tell. So, I mean, when Angela Bassett's given wooden readings, I mean, you know that's the writing. That's definitely not her. Although watching Angela Bassett use the word fudge is actually quite scary. Turns out that's more intimidating than I thought.
Yeah, there are some nice little quirks like that. And I mean, the writing, I think, tries to be clever and sometimes it gets there. But ultimately, I think the focus on little clever things like that and the visuals sort of take away from the rest of the script and it's a little flat. But you're right. I mean, those are three heavy hitter actors. And like, why is that not the film? They get such a little part of it. And I mean, they're almost like characters that are they're like Yoda, basically, or like these mythological sages who everybody comes back to, and they have like the answers, they have all the firepower you need. And, you know, they do get like a pretty long scene in the third act, but that's just a more interesting story. I think if you're gonna focus on a story, that's the one I want to focus on and not uh whatever else is going on. Because another thing is that I think a lot of the characters aren't drawn very well, especially on the villain side. Like the Ralph Ineson character, that whole like underworld cabal. Like they're generic in a way, and
Yeah,
there's
and
no
the
interest.
craziest part too is we're talking about holes and whatnot. I mean, the inciting incident of the movie, her massacring a bunch of people, including one of the head guy's kids. We don't even know why she was sent there. Like, we actually don't know what. We've never find out what the purpose of any of that was. So it just kind of starts the movie and goes off from there.
Yeah, I mean they refer back to it over and over again, and he that's yeah, that's the thing that gets it in motion. But then you have like who are these three guys in the Universal Monsters masks? Which, by the way, I'm going to get all of those because that's a fantastic
Those are great
touch.
masks.
Yeah, but who are they? I mean, are they related to anybody in the film? Because that's like the secondary inciting incident that puts her in motion with the kid. But are they like rogue? I don't know who they
I think they
are.
have to be, and I think the tip off to that is that they never take the masks off, so we never actually found out who they are.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
true.
they're just thugs that wanted this money. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, right. We don't find out because my I always assumed we were gonna figure out like that the father was doing something where he owed money to bad people or something
Right.
like that, but we don't even find that out. We don't get any inkling that he's anything other than the accountant that he's set up to be at the beginning. Yeah, you keep thinking there
Yeah.
might be another layer, but there never really is. It just stays on the surface level the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to think about it too much. If you were to think about which universal monster would turn on the others, do you think it would be Frankenstein?
No, I think Wolfman would definitely turn on everyone.
Yeah, Wolfman's a wild card.
He's a total
He's
wild card.
really yeah. That was just such a nice touch, and in a film of visual touches, just choosing to do that is
Yeah,
it's
and having
akin, you
them
know,
do it in a video store too, having the Universal Monster
yeah,
masks and them doing the
yeah.
exchange in a video store. I mean, nice touch, absolutely. That's what I mean. There's
I
there's
think
just
about
right. It's just this is a movie not to think about and just to watch and kind of let it wash over you because I just think about that scene. I mean that sequence in the bowling alley is a lot of fun leading up to her getting the money and that wild sequence with the car and the grenade and everything. It's just it's really fun to look at. It's really not good to think about.
I have to say though, some of the choreography, especially coming off of watching Atomic Blonde right before it, the choreography was a little stilted to me. And, you know, when they do like wide shots of her fighting, there are people just standing around, like waiting, you know, and it didn't have that sort of kinetic, immersive feeling that you got from Atomic Blonde. So it was fun to watch, and I loved it. Was very inventive, and I think Atomic Blonde's fight choreography was too. You know, she has that whole scene with that hose in the apartment, which is like great. But in this, there's so much fun in the action, and you know, like the tooth, like the giant tooth at the hospital, or just like the use of the bowling ball, or whatever. I mean,
Or a whole
it's
sequence
fun.
of having to fight with both of your arms numb is
Yeah,
pretty inventive
yeah,
idea, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
and I have to say, credit where credit is due. I mean, as an actor, that's kind of hard to do to constantly have to remind yourself that you can't actually move your arms. Uh, so, but you know, that's pretty must have been a fun scene to film for her.
But she had feeling in her hands to pull the trigger of the gun. Something I was
I
wondering.
think that I think it is on the. I guess when she flung it around because it was on the trigger, maybe it created the downward
Oh,
pressure. That's what I'm going with, man. That's how I'm selling it.
don't think.
All
Yeah.
right.
These filmmakers, not a lot, you know, not a lot in their filmographies, and not too much coming up either. So I didn't do like a deep dive on them, but I'm curious about, you
You
know,
didn't have to do a
what
deep
their
dive. Yeah, there's not
trajectory
much
is.
diving to do. So
Yeah. Uh, the um the writer, the co-writer, Ehud Lavsky, does have a film coming up called Garen's Last Film with Josh Gad, and that was the only thing I saw on the horizon for either him or Navat Papashado, which is interesting. And, I don't know. I mean, maybe working with Netflix was such a bummer that they're like, I'm out of Hollywood. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna deal with this anymore.
I don't know. Yeah, I
But
mean, Gunpowder Milkshake's the last movie he directed. It's been 5 years at this point. So you're right. Nothing upcoming. I don't know what to make of that. Because yeah, I think I could totally see this guy doing some pretty good work on TV. I mean, there's you could throw him in an action show and he's
yeah,
more than capable of carrying this off.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you know, it's only been a couple of years, and it's probably hard to get things sold. So maybe they're shopping something around. Who knows? But um, yeah, I'm just surprised there aren't more things, at least in development or lined up for them. Um,
I agree.
talk about Paul Giamatti, who feels like Goodman and Toby Jones in the last film. He's so good at being that guy, and kind of makes a turn here, like a heel turn, really toward the end, and it's he's always fun. I just really love him.
I mean, it says step back and look at the cast of this movie. It's kind of amazing, like how many you just have like the top line 6, 7 people are really really good. But I will say, uh, don't forget about Chloe Coleman who plays the
Right?
little girl. I'm a big fan. She was in that movie My Spy with Dave Batista. Bring up Dave Batista
Uh-huh.
again. I really like that
Uh-huh.
movie. I'm
Oh
sorry.
wow.
I am a My Spy fan. Watched that movie with the family. We enjoyed that movie. I'm not going to apologize for it. It was a good time. So she's in
But she
that.
holds her own here.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
she was in that. She was in Big Little Lies. She was in oh, what else was she? She's been in a few things. She's a quality young actress.
I mean, you mentioned the top line people here and how heavy of the hitters they are, and I mean, she holds her own, and she does it in a way that's not like the cliched, like precarious kid, you know, or precocious kid that is like quippy and has it all together. I mean, she's perhaps the most like realistic character in the film
Yeah,
in her
you're right.
centeredness,
Yeah,
because she's also like, well, I mean, maybe not, because she's
the
cool with her
bar is
dad being
low. I
murdered
mean,
and
let's not kid
is
ourselves.
yeah. I mean, she's really in the middle of like the craziest night she's ever going to experience. So I guess it's not, uh, she's not that realistic, because I would assume anybody would lose their mind in that position, but um, she feels more balanced than some of the cliched uh, kid characters you see in other films. And that's interesting because a lot of these characters in this film are pretty much just like tropes from action films. And that's really as deep as they get. I mean, you think about the Ralph Ineson character, and by the way, he's the voice of the Green Knight. In our Green Knight episode, we talked about him. Uh,
Right.
he's sort of anonymous in this role, and like the lead bad guy who shows up, and I mean, there's just no depth to anybody in this film, and
Not
that
at all.
you don't need it, I guess, but it would be nice to have a little more. I think a little more substance to it, but uh, it, it
Yeah, and that whole
it's to
speech
be.
about that he gives at the end with about having daughters and then having a son, and I'm like, it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, he really doesn't understand what feminism is if his whole version of that is painting the house pink and filling it with unicorns. I
Yeah,
don't think that's how feminism works. But yeah, again, the writing just not uh, it's like a milkshake. Milkshake is dessert. It's a sweet thing that is filled with calories, mindless calories, so maybe it's the perfect name for it, but
see, you
I
came around to it eventually. I knew it.
I will say though, as far as milkshakes go and the physics of them, in the first scene, the waitress said that the Sam character was waiting for her mom for 4 hours. And when Lena Headey showed up, that milkshake was still in perfect condition. So that tells me that milkshake is not any kind of realistic milkshake, or she just ordered it. I don't know. But
That tells me
it,
that is a great diner. That's what that tells me. They make their
that's the
milkshakes so well
thickest
they stand up.
milkshake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's so thick it lasts 4 hours at room temperature. And then even when they sucked it down, it didn't really move. I was paying close attention to that milkshake because it's the
it's
name of
like
the
a
film.
what? It's like a frosty from Wendy's, and you try to suck it up with
Yeah,
a straw, and you get that vein in your forehead, and you almost pass out. It's like it's so that's what there was that kind of shit.
yeah, you're right. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with us?
No, what else is there to talk about with this movie?
All right, good. Then let's go on to our head-to-head comparison because I think that's where the real discussion's going to happen with these two. What do you think about story effectiveness with these two films? Is either one super effective
Oh
in what it's
man,
trying to do?
again, how we judge these things. I mean, Atomic Blonde is just such a convoluted, complex story. Um, and Gunpowder Milkshake is basically no story. So story effectiveness. I mean, because the bar is lower for Gunpowder Milkshake, I'm going with that one.
Okay, well, that's one way to look at it, I guess.
That's my take. I'm sticking to it.
So for me, I think, uh, it depends on whether or not you give credit to the screenwriter of Atomic Blonde for actually trying to confuse you. And I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that it's intentionally sort of opaque and disorienting. Um, and because of that, it feels like it's better just because it's a better story and like more grounded. Um, it feels better to me. The atomic or the I was going to say the atomic milkshake, which would actually be a better
Now that is a great movie title
name.
right there.
Yeah. Or gunpowder blonde. I mean, it feels like an oxymoron, but also a good title, I guess.
Works for me.
Um, yeah, I think the milkshake movie is, I don't know. It just feels like there wasn't much writing at all in it. And there almost isn't necessarily a story to tell in a way. I just like the story of Atomic Blonde
You
better.
can say that. That is
So
fair. You're allowed to say it.
that's what I'm going to go
But if
with.
you start making assumptions about what the author of the movie is trying to do, that's not necessarily an effective story. We don't have any illusions about what the writers of Gunpowder Milkshake were trying to do. None. I don't have to think about it for a minute.
That's just me
Very clear to me.
justifying that I like that movie better, basically. So I give it the benefit of the doubt. How about characters?
Boy. Characters, I'm going to have to go Atomic Blonde because there are characters. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like they're at least 2D, not necessarily 3D. I mean, but Gunpowder Milkshake is 1D at best.
Yeah. I agree. I think the Lorraine character, Charlize Theron's character, is just so solid, and there isn't a lot around her as far as character development goes. But I think when you have two characters like that one and the Percival character, James McAvoy, it heightens it. It doesn't matter as much that the people around them aren't drawn all that clearly, but I don't think there's any kind of like that level of development or uh I don't know, like presentation of the characters in Gunpowder Milkshake. So yeah, even though there are fewer of them in Atomic Blonde, I'm with you. I think that's it has the better characters. How about tone and consistency?
Man. Yeah, I mean, Atomic Blonde obviously has a very steady tone. I mean, you could say the same thing about Gunpowder Milkshake, I guess, but no, not really. I feel like, I mean, Gunpowder Milkshake is really just a movie that is set up for, and this is interesting for me to say because I feel like part of what my knock on David Leitch movies before Fall Guy is it just feels like a story in service of action set pieces.
Yeah,
But Jesus, I mean, Gunpowder Milkshake is literally just that. So, I
exactly.
mean, they out David Leitch, where that Atomic Blonde has way more development than Gunpowder Milkshake. So we're going Atomic Blonde.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's a consistency to Atomic Blonde that is developed in the set, in the visuals of it, in the consistency of the characters. It really starts out though more talky and is kind of like leans into the Le Carre espionage piece of it and then builds to the David Leitch action element.
That's true.
So it it it's almost like two different things in a way, but I do think it meshes them together well, and it goes, you know, on that slow uphill ride that's very consistent to get to that action. And Gunpowder Milkshake, yeah, it's like you said. I mean, I think everybody is like fine in it, but it's light in the storytelling, and because of that, it's almost like I don't even know what the tone is necessarily because there's just nothing to it. I mean, is it funny? Is it serious? Is it this like generational trauma film? Like I don't know. It feels very clunky when it tries to go deeper than what it actually is, and
Well,
so because of
that's
that,
100%
um,
true. Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. Atomic Blonde all the way. What about cultural staying power and iconic scenes?
Well, seeing as how I don't think anyone's even heard of Gunpowder Milkshake, and and Atomic Blonde has an actual movie star. I feel like Atomic Blonde. Yeah, I mean, obviously.
It really has a lot of internet presence, oddly. There are a lot of GIFs for Atomic Blonde, and the only ones I could find for Gunpowder Milkshake were the ones made by Netflix. And that's never a good sign because that's trying to lean into the marketing in a way. Uh, just looking at both of these on Rotten Tomatoes, which isn't any kind of like necessarily be all end all of what it is, but Atomic Blonde has a 79 critics rating and a 64 audience rating. So it's not all that well received, but Gunpowder Milkshake has a 60 critics rating and a 49 audience rating. So it's not solid with the audience.
have to admit, I'm surprised by that. I really am. I mean, Gunpowder Milkshake to me feels like an audience movie.
Huh. Well, if it doesn't have an audience, then,
That's fair. That's
if
a fair point.
people don't know what it is. So, all right, I want Atomic Blonde with cultural staying power too. All right, let's move on to the questions that we ask each week. These are just for fun. I mean, they're not necessarily going to help us decide which film we pick, but we like to do them anyway. And the first one is, which film is more rewatchable?
I have to say, I think Gunpowder Milkshake is a more rewatchable movie. I really do.
Yeah, yeah. I I could watch scenes from Atomic Blonde over and over again, like the fight scenes. I think those are super cool, and some of the like. I mean, I like looking at like the club stuff or like the restaurant stuff with the neon and but there's so much thought that has to go into watching this film because of this like overly complex story. And I don't love that, but uh, you know, yeah, Gunpowder Milkshake is just worth watching. If putting it on. I mean, that's the whole point of Netflix. Put it on in the background, right? And you can do that with Gunpowder Milkshake because you don't have to think about it. And you
That's
don't have
fair.
to fast forward between action scenes to not have to think about the stuff beyond that. Um, would you want to hang out with anybody from these films?
Man. Um, if I was going on a bender, I probably want to hang out with James McAvoy's character. That he seems like a good time. If I was just throwing caution to the wind, but
Good old
if everyone in
Percival.
this movie, these movies, I feel like Chloe Coleman's the only person I would feel comfortable hanging out with.
I would love to hang out at that library. These women are awesome, and I could learn a little bit about fighting. I would watch Michelle Yeoh just beat people up with a chain all day long. That's super fun. She's so good. Is this a career peak or valley for any of the main players? Could be both for the Gunpowder Milkshake director.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Um, I mean, for the rest of them, no. I mean, it's strangely enough. I mean, these casts are really strong, so I don't necessarily think it's a career peak or valley for anyone. I mean, you could argue maybe it's a career peak for Charlize Theron because she fought for this role, and to her, it's like the thing that she really wanted to do for herself. So maybe in that regard, it might be a peak for her.
Yeah, I just think she has such an amazing career and such success after this that it's hard to perhaps like from a producing standpoint. I guess that makes sense. All right, we changed this one up a little bit. If Steven Spielberg had to direct one of these films, which one should he do?
um,
That's a better approach to this, right?
it's definitely better. It's definitely a more
Yeah.
enjoyable question. It would have to be Atomic Blonde. I mean, there's no way he would make a better milkshake. Just, but I don't, and I don't know if he
Would
can
he
make
ever
it any
make a film
better.
with milkshake in the title?
Yeah, I think he'd read the title and be like, I'm out. So I don't. Yeah, but Atomic Blonde, I think he can make a pretty good version of Atomic Blonde.
I mean, it's not that far off from Bridge of Spies, right? It's set during the Cold
Well, to
War at
me,
that
it's like Bridge
moment.
of Spies and Minority Report. I mean, the look
Yeah,
of it is actually very Minority Report. So,
yeah,
it's that blue gray kind of tone. So,
yeah,
yeah, I feel like if this was around this time, sure, Spielberg would have taken a crack at it. He could have done a pretty good job.
yeah. You make the case for me right there. I don't have
Although I
to.
will also argue, I just realized the reason he could possibly make Gunpowder Milkshake is because we know how good Spielberg is directing children, and the movie technically centers around a child. So maybe, but not really.
It's true. Yeah, it might maybe the sequel focuses on Emily and Spielberg directs it. Would either film be better if you swapped lead actors? And I guess in this case that means Charlize and Karen Gillan.
Man, I mean, look, I mean, Charlize Theron's just a better actress. I mean, could you put her in Gunpowder Milkshake and she would kick ass in that movie? Yeah, I mean,
Of
sure.
course. Yeah.
Um, could she possibly bring some emotional depth to the character? Possibly. So maybe it would be better. Maybe.
I think that Karen Gillan's character, I mean, she dresses like she's in Berlin during the Cold War at the beginning of the
Sure.
film with that
I
hat.
was gonna say I
But
wrote in my notes. I actually wrote down like Carmen San Diego assassin. Like that was basically
yeah,
just the
yeah.
only thing I think I wrote down. I was like, what kind of
Yeah.
a look is this? This is so
Yeah.
weird. Anyway,
That really makes it ambiguous as to what the time is. And so do the flip phones and like I don't really know. I mean, the whole diner element of it feels a little older. I mean, I live in New Jersey, so I know there are a million diners still around, but yeah, it's almost like intentionally confusing about when it takes place. And there's a little bit of that in John Wick too, but I think it's very well established in present day, even though, all of the women who work for the Continental look like they're straight out of the 50s or something. All right. Well, we think we know where we're going to go with this, but let's look at our online poll and see which one our followers decided was a better film. Follow us on social media. We're at Movie Throwdown Pod, and you can cast a vote for next week's winner, as people did here. Uh, What do you think? What do you think the winner is this week for the
pretty sure
people?
Atomic Blonde won. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. 22-2, Atomic Blonde over Gunpowder Milkshake. It was a real bloodbath in the online polling. So yeah, the people have spoken. I think we're aligned with them. But just so I'm clear, are you going with Atomic Blonde as the winner this week?
No, I'm rejecting the people. I'm going with Gunpowder Milkshake. I like that movie better. I'm sorry. I just did.
Really?
I
Wow.
did. I did. I liked it better.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
I interesting. And it in the head-to-head comparison, Atomic Blonde beat out Atomic Milkshake in your answers. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you like more. I mean, that's more of an analytical
Exactly.
thing.
I
So,
mean, I have to give honest answers to the questions, but again, if I'm going to put on something right now, I probably will put on Gunpowder Milkshake.
okay. I think technically, as far as the throwdown goes, for me, it's Atomic Blonde. It's a better film. It has its flaws, but I find a lot of interesting things going on in it, and a lot of big swings from the acting to the directing, and it feels a little more competent to me, and especially in the writing. So even though we don't know if it's trying to trick
Cannot
me or
argue
not.
with any of those things. You
So
can no
yeah,
argument for
we're
it.
split on it. We don't have a winner. If we go to the people say Atomic Blonde. They're the tiebreaker. So I guess that's our winner this week. Uh, yeah. So let's talk about next week then. Now that we've moved on from
Yeah. Talk about the
from
sharpest of sharp turns.
yeah, we're going from 2010s action to 1930s rom-coms, basically. This is going to be so much fun because I think we both really love both of these films, and we're actually going to have a guest who also really loves these films and introduced me to them. It's repeat guest and my wife Laura Carney, and what we're going to talk about next week is a battle between Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant collabs in the parlance of the kids these days. So we're going to look at Bringing Up Baby from 1938, which is one of those films I think that has gained stature over time because in the moment it sort of was like a death knell in the career of Katharine Hepburn, and that's going to take on the Philadelphia Story from 1940, which is also a Katharine Hepburn Cary Grant joint, also starring Jimmy Stewart, and two classic directors in Howard Hawks and George Cukor. This is going to be a lot of fun. Are these like big films for you?
Yeah. I mean, Philadelphia Story is just, way up there. When we're talking about Cary Grant comedies, I mean, that, that's really hard to pick. I
Not for
may
me.
go, yeah, I may go with a few other ones, but Philadelphia Story is really always been one of my favorite.
It's monkey business all day for me, for
Oh,
Cary
okay.
Grant. Love
I
it
mean,
so much.
I'm actually a bit partial to His Girl Friday, but
Yeah. They're all good. I mean, we could just live in Cary Grant land with the Throwdown if we wanted to. But next week, yeah, join us for that. It's going to be Bringing Up Baby versus the Philadelphia Story. Be sure to follow us on social media. As I said, we're at Movie Throwdown Pod on TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Facebook. Vote in our polls and tell us which one of these films is the better film in your mind. And then come back and find out where we land next week. We will see you then. So long.